G'day, welcome to another one of my vlogs. Like I said, still getting used to this being in front of the camera, but still loving it. And I've had a very interesting request come my way. I've been asked to build a computer. Not just any computer, but this computer I've been asked to build actually is for another YouTuber. This YouTuber is very near and dear to me. Some of you may know her, some of you may not. The stuff behind me that you can see is all from her computer. When I was asked to do this, I was very excited. Today's episode is going to be a bit different than normal. It's going to be me explaining how to build a computer. That's the motherboard. There's the video card, or graphics card, whichever you want to call it. The Ryzen CPU processor. The 16GB double stick RAM, the SSD hard drive, and the 3TB spinning disk drive. Okay, so we've got the motherboard out, we've got the CPU out, we've got the CPU fan out. Now what I've got to try and do is just see how it's got these little connections here next to the CPU slot on the motherboard. If you have a look at the fan type, it doesn't quite fit because these plastic things here. So I'm now removing them so we can fit the CPU fan on there. So undo the two screws from this side. Undo the two screws from this side. Okay, done. Now there should still be a bracket on the underside, so that's what the CPU cooler will be screwing into. So we've got those adapters out. Just double check the alignment because two sides are going to be narrower than the other two. So this step here is taking the CPU out and making sure it lines up. There is corners cleaned off on the holder, and there is one that's divoted out. It's marked on the CPU. So that's what I'm doing there. I can see where it's marked out. Comparing that to what's on the underside of the CPU, you do not want to bend or touch any of the pins underneath here because you will fry the nice expensive central processing unit. So don't do that. Don't force it in, don't press it in, don't try and get in there as hard as you can, and then gently push that lever back down. Right, so have a look on the board for where the CPU fan connector is on the motherboard. Make sure the screws line up. Make sure you've also got that thermal paste on the fan, because otherwise it's not going to do anything and your CPU will still fry out. Now the trick here is that you don't do all four screws up as tight as you can the first time. All you want to do is just get them to grip, get them to hold the fan in, and then gently work your way around them bit by bit, tightening it up. Otherwise you could once again damage the CPU and cause all sorts of damage that you don't want to have. So round and round, just like doing up a car wheel when you swap over to the spare. I might even fast forward this bit when I'm doing it properly. You never really know these things, so I just talk some random shit. Okay, so CPU's in, plug in the CPU fan to the connector on the motherboard. Try and get the cord for it so it's almost looped around itself, just to try and keep it nice and neat. So CPU cooler is on. Now we've also got the faceplate there on the left hand side. What I'm getting now, I'm just getting the memory so I can put that in at the same time. And that way we've then pretty much got most of it built. Actually no, I'm looking for this is installing the solid state drive. First of all, keep your workbench clear. Always keep it clear, otherwise you're just going to be working in mess and you're not going to have enough room for what you want. So I'm just looking for the location of the M.2 connector. It was a bit of a sneaky one, this one. I forget exactly where it was again. I think it was down near the memory. Still looking for it. It's a very sneaky connector. It's hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for. Even if you do know what you're looking for, it can be tricky as well. So, find that connector. And I'm sorry, my camera doesn't have a flip down screen, so it was really hard to see what I was recording from this overhead shot. Aha, see? So I'm unscrewing the solid state connector there. Unpacking the solid state drive from its packaging. This must be absolutely riveting stuff to watch. Look at it, nothing's changing because it's just out of frame what I'm doing. Yay! But yeah, all I'm doing is swapping over screwdrivers, I can see that now, and unpacking the SSD. And unpacking the SSD. Yes, I use a quad propeller to come through my plastic. Because why not? Still all off camera. Sorry guys, I do apologise for this. Aha! I have unpacked the SSD and now I am installing it. Once again, don't force it. There is a big difference between a firm push and forcing it. One of them will do damage, one of them will get it into the right spot. Don't ever force it because you will break stuff. Right, it is in. I think. Is it? No, not quite. Oh, I think that got it. That got it. And screw. Done. So we now have a motherboard with CPU cooler, and with a solid state drive. So all it is missing at this point would be memory and power, and you could turn this thing on and it will ask you to install Windows. Now I'm not going to show you guys the Windows installation process, just because otherwise this thing's going to be a 2-hour long video, and I don't think anyone's really interested in that sort of thing. So, installing the RAM. Make sure when you're installing your RAM that the slot there lines up with the bump in the RAM bay. Otherwise you can do more damage, or you can just simply get very, very frustrated when it's not working out for you. So press the memory down until it clicks in, and done. If we were to give this thing power and plug it into a screen and keyboard, it would work. It is now a fully functional computer. Okay, so look, I even managed to recenter the shot. Yay, you can see things clearer. Okay, so I'll put that stuff aside because I don't need it just yet. What I do need is I need the case. Here it is. Whoa! Okay, so now I've got the case out, I can start taking all the panels off, so I know what I'm working with, where the cables go and everything like that. Now on the back, normally the case sides are held in with 2 screws, one at the top, one at the bottom, for each side. So the first thing I do is I take out those screws and then take off the sides. Okay, once I've got the sides off, feed through the cables, make sure I know exactly what I'm dealing with. What I always recommend you do is you put the screws back in the case so you don't lose them later on. They are very easy to lose and they roll away very, very quickly, but if you put them back in the case with the sides off, you know exactly where they are. Just don't forget to take them out before you put the sides back on. Now, the biggest open area on the back of the case is where this piece from the motherboard box comes into play. Come in from the inside and just press it into place, and that will line up with all the ports on the motherboard. press that gently but firmly. Firm but not forceful. Push, 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 and it pops into place. There we go, almost. Oh, there we go. Okay, so once again, just undoing all the cables for the case fan. You see I've got the cables for the hard drive and the motherboard connections all out of the way, and then we pulled out the motherboard again. Now the first thing we want to do, you'll see me do this in just a second. I might actually wait for you to do this, because this part's pretty boring again. Okay, so we get the motherboard, and all I'm doing here is I'm finding those holes in the motherboard and lining them up with the supports in the case, making sure that there's no extra ones that aren't needed, and also making sure that where it does need the extra ones, they're there. So see, I point to one of them. I've got a few spare ones in the bag, so I'll just pop those into place until I've got all the holes lined up. Okay, once they're all lined up, you get some of the screws from the case also, and just one by one, put one into every single one of those holes. Another point of advice, don't do them up fully, because there can be some warpage in the case and there's a slight warpage in the motherboard. Do them up enough to grip, the same as we did with the CPU fan. Do them up enough to grip until you've got them all in. Once you've got all the screws in, then you can do them up tightly. Next thing you want to do is get the cables. These in this case were hidden underneath, so just got to undo some more cable ties. Get the cables for the motherboard and pop them through to where they need to go on the motherboard, on the other side in this case. Now, once again, don't force. Be firm without being forceful to get these connectors in. This big one is the main power supply for the motherboard, and this is the secondary one. This actually feeds mainly to the video card on the computer. So work out what you need, feed it through. Try not to get in the way of fans and everything like that, because it will make a noise, it will start to overheat. And what I do with this one in particular is I feed it down between the case and the video card slot, just to hold it in place a bit more. Okay, now the video card is a bit like the motherboard. You gently work out where it needs to go, and then in this case here, it's a double wide video card, so I'm removing one of the protective panels from the case, and then I'm just doing a bit of a test fit to make sure that everything lines up. And same with the memory when it's in, a simple push and click. I also double check to make sure all the protective stuff is off and that there's no other power requirements for the video card itself. Right, so in it goes, keeping that cable I mentioned before in front of it. Gentle push until it clicks, there we go, and then just put in 2 screws at the front and replace any protective covers. Now this part will depend widely on what case you've got and what motherboard you've got. All I'm doing is, if you see those other loose cables that are there, I'm finding where they go. They've all got marked on them what they are. There's that one in my hand now is the USB 3, and that will go into where it says USB 3 on the motherboard. These other ones here, the other ones that are there go into various different spots. Like the power switch, the reset switch, the power LED, the hard drive LED. These all depend on the actual case themselves and the motherboard. From the case point of view, they will be marked. From the motherboard point of view, they might be on the motherboard. You might need to check your manual. Okay, so once you've got all the motherboard connectors up and running and ready to go, we then need to install the spinning disk hard drive. So clear off your space of any loose crap you might have, get things ready. And this is just me putting the hard drive, in a minute, putting the hard drive in the hard drive bay. Now this one I don't need any screws for, it's got tabs that go into the right spots. So pop those tabs on, get any cables out of the way. Oh no, I did put a couple of screws in this. Okay. Wasn't really needed with this case anyway, but always good to double secure things just in case, because you never know. So pop the hard drive into the spot that goes on the motherboard, on the case, sorry. Any spares, do the same with them. And then just screw them into place. Once you've done that, it'll just be a case of run the cables, the power supply cable and the SATA cable to the SATA port on the motherboard, and then close it up and you're good to go. So SATA cable plugged in, and close up the case, and we have one built computer. That is how you build a computer in a nutshell. I probably went over it a bit too fast for a lot of people that don't know a lot about computers, but that's mainly because I've been building, servicing computers and servers for over 20 years now, so it took me about half an hour to build all up. It's for Maid Mama. Check her out on YouTube if you haven't already. She does some fantastic cooking. Absolutely delectable sweets.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. I want to open it faster because it's suffocating right now. Actually,
I didn't put holes in it.
It's a second tab. Oh, I wish.
I don't know what any of these specs mean. It's a Kruger, it's bad.
I knew that can help.
Oh god, I'm shaking too much to do this straight. Wait.
I think she said that's not pink enough.
Everyone here made this possible.
Not Kruger.